This is Michael Spedden, and welcome to Fowl Players Radio, your one-stop shop for all of your pop culture needs. We feature interviews from musicians, actors, comics, dancers, authors, and much, much more, up-and-coming artists and beloved favorites. We've got it all, people on stage, backstage, out front, and behind the scenes. Sit back and relax. Let's have some fun.
Hey, this is Brian Damage from Kicks and Rhino Bucket, and you're listening and watching Fowl Players Radio.
Hey, this is Jay Nedry from the Road Ducks, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
All right, folks, and welcome back to Fowl Players Radio. Michael Spedden here, and tonight we have Pete Evick. Pete is, he's got his own band, Evick. He's the guitar player for Bret Michaels, and he also has an acoustic act, and he performs with Dean Kramer and Chad Stewart from Faster Pussycat. Dean Kramer is also one of his partners in crime with Bret Michaels, and he has this great book called MTV Famous that he wrote a couple of years ago, a biography that really, talks about his admiration of music, getting into MTV as a kid. And I really liked it because he and I are kind of in the same age group. And I can really remember a lot of the things that he was talking about in the book here. So I will put links to get this book in the show notes. Available on Amazon and on, Evick.com. But I'll put it all in the show notes for you to find. So, stick around, folks. We have a great conversation with Pete Evick coming up right after these words. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, this is Keith Mack, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hi, this is Randy Jackson from Zebra, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
And welcome back to another episode of Fowl Players Radio. Tonight, we have a good friend of ours. He was a guest on my 97 Underground show, and we had way too much talking and things in common and everything to cram into that 29 minutes. So what do? We come over here to Fowl Players Radio with, as we would say, the overflow or some more things. I've been reading his book, MTV Famous. And my friend that I'm talking about here is Mr. Pete Evick. Pete,
hey,
welcome back. It's good to have you here.
It's good to talk to you, buddy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I had a great time seeing you, do the acoustic act, with Dean Kramer, and over at Ram's Head the other month. Chad Stewart, right, over at Ram's Head. That's a great venue, and you sounded great. I tell you brought the house down, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of music for acoustic instruments. I think we make a lot of noise.
It was a hell of a long set too. I mean, you did a couple hours, I think.
Oh yeah. If we're not required to stop, I'll go for 3 hours sometimes.
That's what it seemed like. I mean, you went a good 2 hours, I know, and everything sounded great. And I really like how you took your show and you kind of went through, the 70s and into the 80s and
the stories.
Yeah, every song was significant, right?
Yeah, the stories are better than the music, most people think. No, I mean, not better than the music, but the stories that we tell and the way we tell the stories in chronological order is what sets it apart from other people, what makes it different.
Yeah, it sure does. And then of course you had, Gavin come up and join you.
Yep, he just left here right now. He's on his way to see AC/DC.
Oh, no kidding. And Gavin got up there, and then you had some other folks that you played with in the past get up and join you too.
Yeah. I always try to bring anyone that plays up on stage. I asked you to come up. I like to make it a party. Everybody's in the band. Next time,
and I won't be scared next time. Okay. I was thinking that if I got up there and screwed up, boy, would I have screwed up. And then I would have to go back and sit in the audience with everybody, and it would have been weird.
I get it.
But next time, I'll come up with something. I know your song list now, and I'll find something that I could do with you. I'll bring my harp or something, or a bass, either one,
That's what
whatever
you
you
should
like
do.
me to do.
Bring a harmonica and
Uh,
jam, man.
That'll work. That'll definitely work. That'll
Yeah.
definitely work. So you've been, on the road, with this act and everything, and it looks like, you're getting out there a good bit. You're playing some great rooms and got quite a following too, huh?
We're trying. I mean, we're not packing 1,000 seaters yet, but for an acoustic act in that kind of sit down theater type of place, we're
Mhm.
doing great.
Yeah, well, it was a really great experience too, because especially places like Ram's Head, you know, it's a very intimate setting. It's a little bit tight, honestly, but it's a good setting because you're right there with the band that you want to see.
Yeah.
The acoustics in there are good. You're not getting blown through the back wall, and it was really great. I mean, you're right there with with the act that you want to see. And it's
Yeah.
it's really good. It's
The intimacy of that venue is great, and I've done a bunch of venues like that. But the Rams Head, those guys are such pros. They take care of that thing. Whether you're an artist or a fan, it's there's just not a bad experience in there, man. It's a good place.
hmm yeah, it sure is. It sure is. I've enjoyed every concert I've seen there, and it's one of my favorite places to go. Yeah, definitely,
Right on.
definitely. Yep. So I was reading through your book here, and a lot of we have a lot in common. We grew up. I think I'm a couple years older than you are, but we grew up around the same time. MTV really meant the same thing to both of us in a lot of ways. I mean, that
Right,
was,
right.
yeah. I mean, that summer of '81 with MTV coming out. I mean, there's no other way to describe, I really think. Uh,
Inst-
you know,
Instant change in the entire world. Instant change, like
it,
perception of music and delivery of music,
mhm,
and music was now in your house.
mhm.
You didn't have to turn the radio on. It was different. It was there.
It was. And, I kind of had a thing that I put myself through back then called learn a new band a day.
Right, and you
You know,
could.
you really could. And the thing was too, was that, the one thing that they did that I think radio wasn't doing was having a good variety on there.
That's right. That's right. I always talk about the very first day that MTV was hooked up at my house. I think I talk about this in the book. The very first video I ever saw was "That's All" from Genesis. Just as I
Okay.
thought it was doing all right, and then the
hmm
next video was Judas Priest, "Love Bites,"
Okay.
and then from there it went to Michael Jackson, and I think Dixie's Midnight Runners, and then like into Quiet Riot. It was just a a live 24/7 tapestry of all culture.
hmm It really was. It really was. And the thing is too is that I think it made people's musical taste a little more well-rounded. I mean, I'm primarily a rock and a metalhead. However, I love me some Split Ends. Remember, we used to see them all the time on
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
There was the Split Ends. There was a couple of other ones. Dr. Hook was on there quite a bit, and the Medicine Show. And they would also they had Meatloaf on there, Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Yeah, right, right.
And the concerts. Yeah, you had mentioned quite a few concerts that you
hmm
loved on there, and they really did have a good variety.
Yeah, it was always it was it's hard to explain it because it evolved into something so much different. But the birth of it was again culture changing for the entire country, and not
Yep.
not in any bad way. It was, I remember they play that Madness video all the time. Our house in the middle of our street, our
Yep.
house,
hmm
and that I would have never been exposed to a English reggae punk band
hmm
uh, any other way, and it's part of my history, and I love it.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And then I think before that they also played One Step Beyond. If you remember that one too. That was an instrumental that they did. It was all,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yep. One Step Beyond. And it was ska. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Ska.
oh,
Yep.
the beginning of ska.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Most people now think ska started with No Doubt.
I know. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? But the concerts on there, pretty much every Saturday night they had a great concert on there. I can remember the Judas Priest concert that they had from the Screaming for Vengeance tour.
Yeah, they had Kiss the Animalized tour. They had Twisted Sister.
Yes, they did. Stay Hungry.
Yeah, the Stay Hungry tour. Right.
Mm-hmm. I think it was from San Bernardino.
Right.
Yep. And Night Ranger. And then they also had, you remember HSAS?
Yeah. Hagar and
Sean or
yeah.
Aronson and Shreve. That was a short-lived thing, and I think it was right before Sammy joined Van Halen.
It was right there. Yeah.
That was a great concert too.
Yep.
So that one, God, what were some of the other ones? Then they had like a couple of like, anthology ones. I can remember there was one that had it had a song from like the Paul Di'Anno Iron Maiden, but then it also had Black Sabbath with Ian Gillan.
Yeah, right. Well, they would run that live version of Running Free with Paul Di'Anno singing on it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I mean, what a great what great formative years there, being able to see all that stuff.
Yeah, bring it in.
Be exposed to all those things. And it was really just a great time. And I think it encouraged a lot of people too. I mean, you had mentioned that I think Kiss you kind of got bit by the music bug by, being into Kiss, which I think most boys were back in that time.
Yeah, right. Everybody our age, you couldn't escape that,
I know everybody was really into that and wanting to be like them. You had mentioned in your book, and I have to say, whenever I had friends over or family, cousins, relatives, friends, the parents were upstairs talking and having their drinks and everything. We were down in the basement deciding what songs we were going to lip sync to and subject everybody to that concert.
Right.
What we're going to do. Oh man, tennis rackets and
that's it. It was tennis rackets. And if you had BMX bikes and the BMX bikes had the chrome things that the tire where you pump the tire up. We would take those caps off and put them in the tennis rackets. They would fit perfectly to look like volume knobs on the guitar.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. That was cool. Sometimes I would just take like cardboard boxes and we would cut out flying V's.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Take the side of a
I think in my book I go on to tell the story about my dad would cut me out wood guitars eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being with having watched The Who, Ace Frehley, and a number of other people at the end of the show, what did they do with the guitars?
Break it up, smash it.
And that couldn't have been, you didn't do it on purpose. I got to tell you, that is probably the best way I've ever seen anybody score a Les Paul.
It was a strange story. I look back sometimes, I can see it clear as day, man, and I can't understand my dad's logic, but it worked.
Yeah,
I'm tired of building these guitars. I bet if I bought you a real one, you won't break that one. He was right. There was no question. But I don't know where he got that logic. He was just tired of it and looking for a solution.
Well, it's a shame that if you had a bunch of fender benders in your car, you didn't roll up with a Porsche or something,
Yeah. I should have tried that technique later when I was 16.
Yeah. That's great. Did so a lot of what you were talking about is coming up and getting to the point where you are now. And I liked a lot of the things that you were talking about with the Virginia clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially you were talking a bit about Jax.
Right. Jax.
Oh yeah. And Jay Nedry's been a guest on this show. As a matter of fact, we did a double episode with him because he had so many stories.
Yeah, he's got all the stories to tell. An incredibly intelligent dude.
Extremely.
very well spoken. He's incredible.
Extremely well spoken. Lots of great stories, and just very very enthusiastic. Very still doing the Road Ducks.
Yeah, I produced their record last year. I
Right.
produced it. Yeah, and he was killing it. He was rocking it. It was great.
They're a great band. Yeah, they're a great band. And again, Jax, there were so many great places. Being a musician at the time, and I'm sure you'd probably agree, the Baltimore, DC, Virginia area. I mean, we had a good variety.
Oh yeah, you could, and you could play at a certain point. You could play every night of the week, and there were still clubs doing rock on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. There was a time in my youth, high school, and just out of high school, that you could play 7 nights a week, and no one was getting rich, but you were getting through to the next day. It was a scene in those bands, and I remember. Are you there?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry. I remember it being from Virginia. All you wanted to do was play the Maryland clubs, and if you're from Maryland, all you wanted to do was play the Virginia clubs.
Exactly. You're right about that. You're right about that. The Maryland clubs, in a way, were kind of homogenous. You saw one. One was just maybe a larger or smaller version of just the next one.
Right.
I remember DC having a lot of variety down there.
Well, DC, DC had the Bayou, which was the main thing. But then right down the road in Georgetown, I believe the place was called Mr. Ed's or Mr. Smith's. I remember. But load-in was terrible. You had to park on the Georgetown street on the main drag and load up a flight of steps, much like the Paragon.
Oh, God.
Very similar to the Paragon, if you remember. But it was a packed house every night, but it was more of a cover club where the Bayou was more of an original thing. But the variety just right there in Georgetown was intense. And then moving down a little bit to the Grog and Tankard, all over. There was never, ever not enough places to play.
There's sure, you're absolutely right about that. The other thing I can remember too about playing down there's a couple of the other ones that I did. 930.
Yes, of course.
The people were
historic.
And the people that ran that club, and I think it's still the same now. They were absolutely great. They really knew how to treat their bands. We weren't used to it.
Yeah, right.
We got down there and we were like, we got the gig at the last minute. We get down there, we get to the dressing room. Somebody directed us back to the dressing room. It was a clean dressing room, and there was food and drinks.
Yeah, God forbid.
And I was like, is there a national act coming here that we're opening for tonight? What's going on with? They're like, no, it's for you. And I was just like, and they paid us decently for one set,
Right. But Maryland had what I call the Route 50 corridor leading out to Ocean City.
Yes.
I always talk about. I spent a lot of my life playing the Purple Moose out Ocean City, and they had this thing where they would play. You could play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And for a while, we were the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday band until we got good enough to play the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was so happy with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the thing was, they paid the same whether it was Monday or Friday.
Right.
Once we were good enough to be a Friday band, they kept asking why wouldn't I play? Why didn't I want the weekends? And I was the true working musician with no other job. So I needed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday work. And why not take that? And I could go get paid more working back down my way down to 50 into Salisbury. Salisbury had some great clubs. Easton and then Kent Island had Red Eyes and all these different places.
Sure, yeah.
You could do all the work you needed just up and down Route 50.
You really could. You really could back then. And even around Baltimore, I mean, a lot of the great rooms they had there. Maxwell's was a nice room. The
Maxwell's.
Rage, of course.
Yeah.
Um, the
Network,
Rage,
didn't they have Network up there?
certainly, yeah. Network that changed hands a few times too. Network to, I think it was Gators and then Daytonas, or maybe Daytonas and then Gators, AL
Yeah.
Gators.
AL Gators. That became the home of Brian Jack. He was
Yeah.
always there.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
And then Steeltown.
Steeltown, yeah, that one unfortunately didn't last that long, and that would have been a great place. It was nice and big.
Yeah.
And they were getting national action there too.
Yeah, no, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Steeltown was a big deal. But there were tons of other uh, hole in the wall clubs that you could play at in Baltimore. Probably 20 or 30 of them all right. There's a couple I can't remember names of right on the tip of my tongue, but they were there, and it was a scene. And then even out into Frederick, Maryland, and the Rabbit's Foot and all that stuff. Every single place, if you weren't playing that place, you were hearing how great it was instead of where you were playing. Every single place seemed like you had to go to it. Yeah. What am I missing? I better get out to the Rabbit's Foot, or I better get down to Tiki Fala in Virginia, and just on and on and on.
Oh yeah. Did some of the other places, Feathers Lounge.
I remember the name.
Yeah, that was another one that had horrible stairs.
Right.
That was another one like the Paragon. The Paragon made me, I've been an Ampeg man since day one, but I tell you, playing at the Paragon made me regret
That'll change your mind. That'll change your mind. There was another club in Maryland that was down a small flight of steps, Club 22 or something like that. In the Pasadena, Maryland area or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Club, and it was two numbers. I can't remember the two numbers. Yeah.
And then there was the Brass Rail was down there too.
Right.
That was a pretty nice place.
Right. And then going out Route 4 and Route 5, there were tons of places heading out out onto southern Maryland, out into Solomon's Island. There was all kind out into La Plata and all that. There was all kinds of just water and hole bars with a band every night, man.
Yep. And then there was Wilmer's Park or something.
Wilmer's Park.
Yeah.
I never got to go to Wilmer's Park. I missed it. I remember Warrant, Firehouse, and Trickster played there. And I had a nasty case covering my whole body. I was hospitalized for it, of poison ivy. And then by the time I got home, when I got home from that, the same night they were playing was the Moscow Peace Festival that was televised. So all my friends were at Wilmer's Park, and I stayed home and watched the Peace Festival.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was that'll do it to you, man. That's can't be out there playing, especially in the summertime with poison ivy. Good Lord.
Yeah, right.
Sounds brutal. But yeah, Wilmer's Park, that was in Brandywine.
Yeah.
So many great places. Another one was now this was a real hole in the wall. It was called the Old Mill Tavern.
And I don't remember that one.
Yeah. It was an old country bar, and on the stage they had a big cowboy mural. It had like the desert and cactuses and stuff, but over top of it they hung down all these like silver streamers.
Yeah.
To where you could, like, if something was blowing around on stage, they would part and you could see the mural.
Right.
And they also had coming up out of the stage, it looked like it's like a pipe, like you would see on a ship. It like comes up and goes to an angle, and it was like right in the middle of the stage where all the light controls were.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it was there was no avoiding it.
And then there was a bar I used to play all the time that I loved it. Small little place, Sonoma's.
Yes. I remember
forget
that
what town that was in though.
I remember the name of it. I don't think I'd ever been there, but I had heard of it,
Yeah.
And we had mentioned Maxwell's before too.
Yep.
Maxwell's was a big that was a big teen show place.
Right.
They would have like Crack the Sky and the Ravens and Boot Camp and a lot of those bands that were big here.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the Ravens, Boot Camp, the Vamps, if you remember those guys.
Taste
Yeah.
Dancer.
But years ago, it was called Martinique's.
All
it
right.
it was actually a Motown club. And my uncle had seen like, the Four Tops and the Temptations play there and stuff too.
Sure. Before my time, but I'm sure you had to have gone there, was Louis Rock City. That was just before my time. I never got to check it out, but I still have friends of mine that are a little bit older that they talk like that was the greatest place in the world.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I don't think I'd heard of it, but I hadn't been there.
Right.
But and there was another place called Louis. Was that after? Was this something that like Louis Principio owned, who was the owner of Hammerjacks after Hammerjacks closed?
It was something different.
Oh, something different. Okay. But yeah, so many great places to play back then. And the thing was too, was that another thing that I remember was that you really had to hustle.
You
to get
did.
people to come out. You actually had to get out and give people some face-to-face time. And
yeah, but that's part of it. That's what's wrong today, is that doesn't happen. That's why there's not loyal fan bases for people that, it's not about being the greatest band in the world. It's about connecting and making people feel like they're part of your story and that you're part of their story. People miss that. People miss that today. Kix's entire following will tell you that they were the first fan.
Right.
And that's how it goes. Like Green Day, Green Day, the Goo Goo Dolls are a couple bands I know that their entire success was based on their small local following being cult-like. And that's what's missing today, man.
It is. It really is. That was something I really miss about those days was, we would make flyers any way we could.
Right.
We would gather the change in our ashtrays, look through our washing machines, our pants, wherever we could get change.
Yeah, right.
And go to the library or go to wherever there was a copier.
At 18 years old, I had sold everything I could and bought my own copy machine.
Wow.
I invested in the copy machine to make those flyers myself.
Is that right? Wow. Hey.
Yeah.
I remember, just going and passing them out and taping them up everywhere you possibly could. We invested in a staple gun.
That's right.
So we could put them up on, telephone poles, which the electric companies hate that, by the way. But
I know.
That, and then we ended up buying a couple cans of spray glue, and we would just spray the back of the flyers, just slap them up wherever we could put them. And
we never did that. That's genius, though. I never did that.
Yep. But then, but the conversations, the face to face, and one thing that I noticed is, how that went away. But that was the one thing that I really miss. I as I'd mentioned, I'd stopped playing for a while. Just to kind of get some personal things together. And then I picked it up again, a number of years later, and we booked some shows. It was an acoustic act, not unlike what you do with Dean and Chad. I went to the places to hand out flyers, and people looked at me like I was trying to sneeze on them or something.
Right.
And I was like, here's a flyer. What's this?
It had gone away. Right.
Yeah. We're playing here. So, well, I thought maybe you'd want to come see us.
Right.
Yeah. And then you hand it to them, they look at it and just throw it. I'm like, all right, geez, it was like Rip Van Winkle waking up and like, wow, it's, and you can sit there and put things on social media, but people just scroll past it half the time.
They do, and they don't remember.
Yeah, and that was just such a good way to do it, because not only, again, it got a conversation going with people.
Right.
you'd end up
Right.
having a beer with them or something like that, you know?
And then you become, again, they're invested. They become invested in your career, you know.
Yep. Yep.
And you get connected because music, you got to find your people, and you can't, you don't find your people making Facebook posts.
No, you really don't. You really don't. Yeah, and that's something too that it's really tough as well, because the thing is that you try to put something up on Facebook to get some traction going so people see it, but there's so many other people out there in the algorithm that are actually buying likes.
Oh yeah,
and doing things like that, and it's like, yeah, I look through things, you know, I'm working, you know, I'm looking through things to listen to, and yeah, I'm looking through YouTube. I can get that on my Roku on my TV, and I'm like, you mean to tell me this stupid shit has 50,000 subscribers?
me
No
and
way
Brett
do
talk
these.
about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, no way are these guys getting that much. You know, I mean, this is dumb.
Yeah,
And
no,
then here I am, you know, with I've got the same size crowd as Puppet Show and Spinal Tap. You know, it's
sure,
you know?
Right. World's completely different for sure.
It sure is. It sure is. You know. So you know, in your book, you know, I mean, you were talking about, you know, the bands that you were in, you know, getting out on the road, you know, touring, and then how did you end up with the Bret Michaels band?
It's a long story.
Well, it's in the book, but you know, you
in
right here, folks, ladies and gentlemen, you know.
In 92 or 93, when CeCe left Poison, I was a gigantic Poison fan. Everybody in the world knew it. You remember Michael Fath, local guitar player?
Yeah, yeah.
Michael Fath had been connected and was one of the people that got to audition for Poison. And he was a little too old. And he called me and he said, I know you love these guys. Here's the information. Have at it. I sent all my stuff in to audition for them. And I was too young.
Yeah.
But I kept that number. And then when Bret went on his first solo tour, I landed some dates on the East Coast as his opening act. And we got to be buddies. And he called me one day and said, I got a one-off gig in Detroit. And I don't really want to bring my whole band all the way out to Detroit. You're closer. I know you know the songs. Let's go up and do this gig. And we didn't rehearse. And I wasn't aware that it was, I thought it might be 400 or 500 people. It was 15,000 people.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, well, there it was, my one chance, and I blew everything. And then we talked a week later, and he said, let's try it one more time. This time I have a one-off gig in Memorial Day weekend with Leonard Skinner, sold out, 33,000 people, Starwood Amphitheater. And that was 21 years ago in 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And we've been rocking the world ever since.
It's interesting how, you know, and not only that, you know, you were able to get into his band from that, you know, you got a second chance. You again, you know, getting together like that, no rehearsal. I mean, you had to show him something that day, or else he wouldn't have said, let's do it again, you know.
He'd also seen our band as his opening band. He knew what we were.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's an amazing story. And then again, you know, how long has this lasted now that you've been working with him?
In 2 weeks, it'll be 21 years. This has been my 21st year. So in 2 weeks, I'll begin my 22nd year.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible.
Long career for a guitar player as a hired gun.
You're right about that. I mean, usually, I mean, you know, when you look at a lot of the, you know, the bands out there that are more of like pretty much like a solo effort, but you know, the backing bands, you know, Ozzy with Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee and Brad Gillis and, you know, everybody else that is Zach Wilde that's been through there. You know, all the people that have been in and out of Rainbow, you know, to have that kind of a connection with somebody, you know, to really be able to, you know, to keep being asked back. And I'm sure, you know, he trusts you. I mean, when it comes to, you know, writing material and things like that, do do you have a hand in that with him as well?
Oh yeah, we've had four Bret Michaels solo records. All of them have been in the Billboard Top 20.
Yeah.
And I co-wrote most of the material, and I produce it, and he lets me mix it all.
Hey, I think you made a good connection, huh?
Best friend I've ever had. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being, and he's an East Coaster too, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
He grew up going to see Kicks just like us.
Well, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because he's I think in our age group, or maybe a couple years ahead of us, but yeah, he grew up around the same time. I know a number of people that remember
Harris.
Wrathchild.
Oh, Wrathchild, yeah,
opening
yeah.
for Poison.
That's right. He at the Seagull. Remember the Seagull was one of the bars?
Yes, yeah, the Seagull Inn. Yeah, that's right near where I lived near there for a while. That was another great place. It's something else now, of course, but yeah, that was another great one. Coast to Coast was another one too.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that one was on I think it was the west side of town, another great club. But they did play quite a bit with Wrathchild America. It was just Wrathchild back then.
Right.
Yep. And the one story I thought that you told me that I thought was really cool from the other interview, which if you don't mind telling us again too, you got to stay in Saddam Hussein's palace.
Oh, he'd already been caught.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bret is huge support of the military. It's important to him. It's super important. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity came for us to go overseas while they were all still fighting. Saddam had just been caught, but the fighting was still going.
Yeah.
And Bret had said, if I want to go over, I want to go to the forward operating bases. I want to go to the people, and I want to go to the hospitals. Because a lot of times you go over there and you just play in Kuwait, and you're relatively protected. We went out and we played in Kuwait, and we played just out in the middle of the desert in these military bases that are I can't even explain it. It's like you see on war documentaries and stuff. And we performed at them, and then we came back and we did a one night in Saddam Hussein's opera house, which was connected to his palace. And instead of putting us in a hotel, we stayed in his palace for the night.
Wow. So what was it like? I mean, was it huge?
Oh yeah, you can't even fathom it. It's a ridiculous. It felt more like you were in a shopping mall than a house.
Wow, no kidding, huh? Wow,
yeah.
Jeez, a whiz. That's something right there.
It was crazy. It was crazy, and I'll never forget it. But sometimes it falls to the back of my memory, and something like this will come up, and reminds me how crazy my life has been and how incredibly fortunate I've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really the book and the stories that you've told and everything, all your experiences that you've shared in the book. It's a really great read. It really is.
I appreciate that.
It really is a great read. I've enjoyed it, thus far, and like to mention as well, you've been in this business for a long time. You've had your success, and it's a great thing. Now you have the next generation of Evicks is coming up. And your son, tell us about this a bit. I mean, now, there are a lot of people that are in the business that tell their children, don't go anywhere near it.
I did that too.
No kidding. What was because it's extremely, feast or famine. It's extremely difficult.
So with Gavin, man, I love that kid so much, and you've met him, and
he's a great guy.
He's such a sweet kid, and no parent wants to see their child hurt. And there's no way around it. This business hurts you, man. It hurts.
It does.
You like no other business. People you thought your friends are not. Things you think are going to happen are not going to happen. Promises are empty.
Oh yeah.
I hate to say it, but it is. And and a lot of deals and a lot of things are made at midnight or 2 a.m. at a bar, and you wake up the next morning and it wasn't real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want that for him. I don't want it for him. But I've told him all about this, and he's had a wonderful group of people to, from Bret Michaels and Tom Kiefer to Lou Graham and Dee Snider. All these guys have sat with him at length, discussed the business with him, discussed more than the music, and he's prepared. And so I think he understands. But it still hurts. Different thing hurts. I know. It looked like last year we were going to be able to put him on this bill this weekend, the Oceans or the Boardwalk Rock Festival, Ocean City, and one of the biggest managers of all time that is involved in that thing was full on. Yeah, we're going to get him involved somehow, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah,
and that's heartbreaking. You know what I'm saying?
It is. It is.
Yeah, but we were in the studio today working on new music. The thing is, as you know, he's passionate about the music. He's on his way to see AC/DC right now. We went to see Metallica last week. He soaks it all in. He learns, but he also still has fun. He enjoys it. He's found a way. And as long as he goes in there knowing that it's going to hurt, that's the best I can protect him from it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a sense of reality. I mean, you'll learn it pretty quick. I mean, just everything that I've been through myself. And not to make things worse on myself, I go from music into acting.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah. The only other business that's more full of lies and cheating and nastiness.
Oh my God.
Right.
Well, I tell people that they're like, well, what's it like, being an actor? I'm like, well, it's they're assholes, but they're different assholes.
Right.
But some of them are the same. There are some of the common ones that are in all walks of life and entertainment.
Well, there's a level of cutthroatness in acting that's a step up from the cutthroatness in the band. The bands are usually groups of people working together as teams, and sometimes they're buddies. In the acting world, from what I can tell, is every man for themselves.
Yes. I mean, you do get like clusters of people, like for example, like the Christopher Guest movie crowd, ensembles, people that kind of work and do a lot of projects together.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that as well. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of below the neck, below the belt.
Right.
And disappointment too.
Sure. Now, you talk about Gavin. The one thing I will say, I think this is kind of a funny story, but I begged Gavin to not want to be in the music business. He turns out he's doing really good at it. But in my brain, I have a younger son, and I keep thinking, well, I got one shot at a guy that's not going to be in the music business. And he comes to me, in all seriousness, wanting to be an MMA fighter. And I'm like, all I said was do anything but the music business, but now you're going to spend your life getting your ass beat. Even when you're winning, you're getting your ass beat. You know what I mean? Oh
yeah, I know. God, yeah, MMA, and that stuff's no joke too.
Yeah, and he's serious about it. He trains about it. He's and he's built for it. He can do it. But I just, I make the joke all the time. Me and Bret go to the shooting range in California, and sometimes Chuck Liddell's out there, and that guy's the king. He's a Muhammad Ali of MMA fighting.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, who gave that dude a gun? You can see a certain emptiness in his brain sometimes when you know what I mean? So, what? I love both my kids, and I can't do anything but encourage them to do that, because I lived off the beaten path. I took the path less traveled. Yeah. And if I was to try to stop them from that, I would be a hypocrite.
Sure. I understand what you're saying. I mean, the crossroads, I took the road most took, when I came to my crossroads, but but I'm back, and I'm doing other things now, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing,
right.
With a sense of reality with it as well, so, Pete, I know we're running low on juice here, but I want to thank you for being willing to come back. I've been dying to talk to you for a while.
Oh, brother. I wish we could find a time to just go hang out and grab dinner and
we will.
Chat. I would love that. And then if you, I know that it's unfortunate circumstances with the time right now, but if you want to, like you did with Jay, and do part 2 to this, let's do it right away.
Sure, we can definitely do that. We'll connect offline to set up another time to do it, because I know people listening want to hear it too, for sure.
Yeah, plenty more to say. So let's find a time to make part 2. And Michael, I'm grateful. Grateful that you're patient with me. My schedule is crazy.
Oh, mine is too.
Yeah. So
mine is too.
All right. We'll find another time.
Well, folks, this is Pete Evick here, and his book, MTV Famous. Where can you get this real quick? Well,
right now that is Amazon, or you can order it off Evick, www.evick.com. You can follow the link and order it there.
Okay, I'll put the links in the show notes to the episode and everything. And folks, make sure you pick it up there. I mean, this is a great book. I'm sure, if you live in the Mid-Atlantic region, you'll recognize a lot of the names of the clubs and everything in here. And it's a fun read. I love rock and roll books. So, thank you again.
All right, Michael.
Folks, thank you for listening. We'll be back. I promise you, we'll be back at a future date with more Pete Evick. Thanks for listening, everybody.
I'll chat with you.
Folks, thanks again for tuning in tonight with our interview with Pete Evick. He's come back. I had him on 97 Underground, and there's so much to talk about. It's really hard with the time that we have to do these interviews and everything to really get everything. But Pete's book, MTV Famous, really talks about his musical career, his life, all the events that really led up to him, performing with Bret Michaels and doing what he does. And I urge you to check it out. Links to his, merchandise and his website with all of his dates and everything are going to be in the show notes. So I urge you to check it out. Again, support our artists, support our guests on this show. Buy their albums, buy their books, t-shirts, tickets to their shows. Not only do they make great gifts, they also make for great experiences. This is Michael Spedden, and we will see you all next time on Fowl Players Radio. Take care, and we'll see you next episode.